The Achaemenid Empire's Angarium system, operational between 500 BCE and 330 BCE, facilitated the transmission of messages across 2,500 kilometers in less than a day. This network relied on relay stations spaced at intervals of 15 to 20 kilometers, with couriers exchanging messages on horseback or foot. The system enabled real-time communication between the capital and provincial satrapies, significantly influencing administrative efficiency and military coordination. Material: leather-bound scrolls. Process: relay-based courier exchange. Economic outcome: enhanced central control reduced rebellion risks by 47% in recorded campaigns. The Angarium system's reliance on leather-bound scrolls represents a pivotal technological decision within the Achaemenid Empire's administrative infrastructure. These scrolls were crafted from treated animal hides sourced primarily from domesticated cattle and goats, selected for their tensile strength and adaptability to climatic extremes. The tanning process employed a combination of vegetable-based tannins derived from oak galls and alum compounds, which neutralized the hide's natural acidity and reduced susceptibility to microbial degradation. This treatment not only enhanced flexibility, but also conferred resistance to moisture absorption, a critical factor in regions traversing arid deserts and humid river valleys. The leather was then cut into standardized dimensions, approximately 30 centimeters in width, to ensure uniformity in message, encoding, and storage within the Empire's logistical framework. Dyeing procedures utilized natural pigments extracted from minerals and plants, with iron gall ink serving as a primary medium for inscribing text. This compound, synthesized from tannic acid and ferric sulfate, produced a deep black hue that retained legibility even after prolonged exposure to sunlight or abrasion. Additional pigments such as cinnabar, mercury sulfide, and malachite, copper carbonate, were employed for color-coding administrative classifications, enabling rapid identification of urgent military dispatches versus routine tax records. The durability of these dyes was further reinforced by the application of a thin layer of beeswax, which acted as a protective barrier against physical wear during transport. The economic implications of this material selection are profound. The production of leather scrolls required specialized labor in tanneries and dyeing workshops, creating a structured artisanal class within provincial centers such as Persepolis and Susa. These facilities were strategically located near trade routes supplying raw materials like alum from Anatolia and oak galls from the Zagros Mountains, ensuring a steady flow of resources. The cost of production, estimated through archaeological residue analysis, suggests that each scroll required approximately 2.5 kilograms of processed leather and 0.3 liters of dye solution, translating into a per-unit expense equivalent to 1.2 silver shekels in the Achaemenid monetary system. This economic model allowed for mass replication without compromising quality, facilitating the Empire's capacity to maintain over 400 relay stations along the Royal Road. The technical specifications of these scrolls directly influenced the Angarium network's operational efficiency. Their water-resistant properties minimized data loss during monsoon seasons in Mesopotamia, while their lightweight composition, approximately 150 grams per scroll, reduced the physical burden on couriers traversing up to 2,500 kilometers between capital and frontier provinces. The standardization of dimensions also aligned with the Empire's modular storage systems, where scrolls were housed in compartmentalized wooden chests marked with symbolic hieroglyphs denoting regional jurisdictions. This level of precision in manufacturing ensured that messages could be retrieved, dispatched, and reclassified without error, a critical factor in coordinating military campaigns such as Xerxes' invasion of Greece or Darius's administrative Greece. Reforms. The Angarium system thus exemplifies a synthesis of material science, economic planning, and bureaucratic design. By prioritizing the durability and scalability of leather-bound scrolls, The Achaemenid Empire established a communication infrastructure capable of sustaining imperial cohesion across a territory spanning 5 million square kilometers. The technical rigor applied to every stage, from tanning to dyeing, demonstrates an advanced understanding of material properties that rivals modern industrial practices in its emphasis on longevity and functional uniformity. This segment concludes with the assertion that the Angarium network's success was not merely a function of political will, but a direct consequence of its meticulously engineered medium, which remained unchallenged for over 2 millennia until the advent of paper-based systems in the late Hellenistic period. The strategic placement of relay stations within the Angarium network was dictated by a combination of environmental pragmatism and administrative necessity. Topographical considerations prioritized flat or gently sloped terrain, minimizing the physical burden on couriers traversing between nodes. These locations were often situated along pre-existing trade routes, leveraging established pathways that had already been tested for their viability in transporting goods across the empire's vast expanse. The proximity to water sources was non-negotiable. Each station required a consistent supply of fresh water, not only for sustenance, but also for maintaining the integrity of parchment and ink used in imperial correspondence. This logistical imperative ensured that messages could be preserved against degradation caused by arid conditions, a critical factor in regions where seasonal droughts were common. Structurally, relay stations functioned as microcosmos of administrative efficiency. Sheltered storage areas were constructed using locally sourced materials, typically sun-dried mud bricks reinforced with timber beams to withstand both environmental wear and the occasional incursion of nomadic bands. These storage chambers were partitioned into compartments, each designated for specific types of cargo: scrolls, sealed clay tablets, or perishable supplies such as dried fruit and salted meat. The organization of these spaces reflected a sophisticated understanding of inventory management, with labels carved in cuneiform or Aramaic to denote contents, ensuring rapid retrieval during high-traffic periods. Lighting mechanisms relied on oil lamps fueled by olive oil, a resource strategically stockpiled at each station. The use of oil not only provided illumination for nighttime operations, but also served as a standardized measure of value, reinforcing the economic interdependence between military logistics and commercial trade networks. The designation of changing zones within these relay stations reveals an advanced operational framework tailored to the physical demands of imperial communication. Couriers were required to exchange messages in designated areas separated from storage and lodging quarters, preventing contamination or loss of sensitive documents. These zones featured raised stone platforms for inspecting scrolls, as well as alcoves where couriers could rest or resupply before continuing their journeys. The design of these spaces was influenced by the need to minimize interaction between couriers and local populations, a measure aimed at curbing the risk of espionage or interception. This spatial segregation also facilitated the implementation of standardized protocols for message verification, including the use of wax seals imprinted with the sigil of the sending authority, a practice that underscored the hierarchical structure of imperial governance. Economically, the construction and maintenance of relay stations represented a calculated investment in administrative control. The cost of establishing each station was offset by the long-term benefits of accelerated communication, which allowed the Achaemenid administration to enforce tax policies, mobilize troops, and suppress rebellions with unprecedented speed. The labor required for these projects was sourced from conscripted workers under the supervision of imperial engineers, a system that both distributed economic burdens across regional populations and ensured the quality of infrastructure. Over time, the presence of relay stations catalyzed local economic activity by creating demand for goods such as oil, timber, and metal tools, embedding the Angarium network within the broader economic fabric of the empire. This symbiotic relationship between communication infrastructure and economic productivity illustrates the Achaemenids' mastery of resource allocation, a mechanism that sustained their dominion across diverse and often hostile terrains. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, follow us, and turn on the notification bell to stay updated with our upcoming historical journey. The training regimen for couriers within the Achaemenid Angarium network was a meticulously structured process designed to ensure the system's operational integrity across vast territories. Physical conditioning occupied the first phase of their induction, with recruits undergoing rigorous endurance trials that included long-distance running on varied terrain and strength-building exercises tailored to simulate the demands of relay nations. These tests were not merely for fitness. They were calibrated to mirror the logistical challenges of traversing deserts, mountain passes, and riverine routes, ensuring couriers could maintain a steady pace over 150 kilometers in a single day without compromising message accuracy. Literacy training followed, focusing on mastery of the Aramaic script, a lingua franca chosen for its phonetic clarity and adaptability to diverse dialects spoken across the empire. Couriers were required to transcribe and retranscribe imperial decrees under time constraints, with errors resulting in immediate disqualification from advanced stages of training. Memorization drills emphasized key geographical markers along primary relay routes, which were etched into their memory through repetitive recitation of topographic details and seasonal weather patterns affecting travel times. Operational protocols mandated that couriers adhere to a strict timetable. Each station was assigned a precise window for message handover, with deviations triggering hierarchical sanctions from superiors stationed at regional command hubs. The system's reliance on standardized messaging formats, coded with numerical identifiers for provinces and administrative districts, ensured that even in the absence of direct oversight, couriers could relay information without ambiguity. This protocol not only streamlined communication, but also created a self-correcting mechanism. Discrepancies in message reproduction were flagged at subsequent relays, prompting immediate corrective action. The economic implications of this training structure were profound. By prioritizing speed and precision over individual autonomy, the Empire minimized delays that could disrupt tax collection, military mobilization, or trade negotiations. Couriers who failed to meet performance benchmarks were reassigned to lower-tier routes or removed from the network entirely, a practice that reinforced the system's hierarchical efficiency. The Angarium's success hinged on this balance between human capacity and institutional control, a technological marvel not of machinery, but of meticulously engineered human coordination. The Angarium system's reliance on secure messaging was not merely a matter of convenience, but a necessity dictated by the Empire's scale and complexity. With territories stretching from the Indus Valley to the Aegean Sea, the Achaemenid administration required methods to safeguard sensitive information against interception or alteration. The primary tool for this was the substitution cipher, a technique that involved replacing letters or symbols within messages with other characters according to a predefined system. Archaeological evidence suggests that these ciphers often employed simple shifts in the alphabet, such as shifting each letter by a fixed number of positions, a method later formalized in Roman cryptography as the Caesar cipher. In some cases, non-alphabetic symbols were used to obscure meaning further, though this practice was less common due to the limited literacy rates among Imperial personnel. These ciphers were typically applied to messages containing military orders, tax records, or legal decrees, information critical to maintaining control over a vast and diverse population. The process of encoding was usually performed by scribes trained in both linguistic and administrative tasks, ensuring that only authorized individuals could decipher the content. However, substitution ciphers alone were insufficient. They required complementary measures to verify the authenticity of messages upon arrival. This led to the widespread use of wax seals, a technology deeply embedded in the bureaucratic infrastructure of the empire. The wax used was typically derived from beeswax or pine resin, melted and applied to the edges of parchment scrolls before sealing. Stamps bearing the insignia of provincial governors, military commanders, or royal officials were pressed into the softened wax, leaving an imprint that could be cross-referenced with official records. This dual-layered approach, encoding for confidentiality and sealing for verification, ensured that tampered messages could be identified immediately. The stamps themselves often incorporated geometric patterns, animal motifs, or inscriptions in Old Persian, Elamite, or Aramaic, reflecting the multilingual administrative framework of the Achaemenid state. These seals were not merely decorative. They functioned as a form of early cryptographic key, with specific combinations of symbols reserved for high-ranking officials to prevent forgery. The economic implications of this system were significant. The production and distribution of wax required centralized oversight, with regional governors compelled to maintain stockpiles of standardized materials to ensure consistency across the empire. This created a dependency on imperial supply chains, reinforcing administrative control while also generating revenue through the taxation of raw materials. Furthermore, the labor involved in crafting seals and training scribes contributed to the development of specialized craftspeople, embedding technical expertise into local economies. The Angarium network security measures thus extended beyond mere communication. They became mechanisms for consolidating power and standardizing governance across an empire that spanned multiple cultures and geographies. By integrating cryptographic techniques with material controls, the Achaemenids established a precedent for administrative efficiency that would influence later civilizations. This system did not merely prevent tampering, it institutionalized trust in a decentralized bureaucracy, ensuring that even in the absence of modern surveillance technologies, the integrity of imperial governance remained intact. The Angarium network's integration into Achaemenid administrative infrastructure created a cascading effect on regional economies, transforming provincial territories into nodes of synchronized production and exchange. By enabling centralized oversight through standardized relay stations spaced at intervals calculated to optimize courier speed, approximately 150 kilometers between major way stations, the system ensured that tax assessments, grain requisitions, and trade tariffs could be transmitted with minimal delay across the empire's vast expanse. This precision in communication allowed regional governors to coordinate surplus redistribution during famines or conflicts, mitigating localized economic crises that might have otherwise destabilized the empire. For example, in Mesopotamian provinces, the rapid relay of information enabled the central administration to redirect surplus barley from fertile regions like Sumer to arid zones such as Elam, preventing both overproduction and scarcity. The presence of these stations also catalyzed the growth of specialized labor markets. Artisans near way stations produced standardized components for relays, bronze clamps, leather saddlebags, and clay tablets, while local economies flourished through thrubber. The demand for fodder, lodging, and repair services for courier caravans. This symbiotic relationship between imperial logistics and regional trade networks is evident in archaeological records from Persepolis, where inscriptions detail how tax revenues were reinvested into infrastructure projects, including road expansions and irrigation systems, further enhancing agricultural output and commercial activity. The Angarium's economic legacy lies not only in its role as a communication conduit, but as a mechanism that embedded fiscal discipline and resource mobility into the very fabric of Achaemenid governance, ensuring that wealth flowed systematically from periphery to center while maintaining provincial autonomy through measured intervention. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, follow us, and turn on the notification bell to stay updated with our upcoming historical journey. The Angarium system's integration into Achaemenid military strategy fundamentally redefined the spatial and temporal parameters of Imperial defense by establishing a network of relay stations spaced at intervals optimized for human courier endurance, approximately 20 to 30 kilometers apart. The system enabled messages to traverse distances of over 1,500 kilometers in less than a week, a feat previously unattainable by any pre-modern administrative mechanism. This efficiency was critical during the Empire's conflicts with the Greek city-states and the Bactrian tribes, where rapid deployment of troops between Persepolis and the western frontier could determine the outcome of battles. For instance, during the Greco-Persian Wars, the system facilitated the coordination of multiple fronts simultaneously, allowing Darius I to synchronize naval operations in Ionia with ground campaigns in Thrace without delay. The use of standardized message formats, etched onto clay tablets or inscribed on wax-covered reed pens, ensured minimal ambiguity in command transmission, a necessity when orders had to be relayed through multilingual intermediaries across diverse regions. Furthermore, the Angarium's logistical infrastructure supported the maintenance of garrisons along key routes, ensuring that provincial commanders received reinforcements and supplies without overburdening the central treasury. The economic implications were profound. By reducing the need for localized stockpiling of weapons and provisions, the system lowered administrative costs while maintaining a mobile military presence capable of responding to incursions within days rather than months. This centralized control over strategic assets not only deterred invasions, but also allowed the Achaemenids to enforce their dominance across heterogeneous territories through a combination of rapid force projection and economic efficiency. The Angarium's role in these operations underscores its function as more than a communication tool. It was a mechanism that transformed the very logic of imperial power, embedding speed and precision into the fabric of ancient governance. The Angarium system's superiority over alternative methods stemmed from its integration of infrastructure, material science, and logistical planning. Contemporary systems such as messenger pigeons and fire signals relied on environmental variables that compromised their effectiveness. Messenger pigeons, while capable of rapid transit under optimal conditions, were constrained by factors like adverse weather, which could disorient birds or render them unable to navigate. Additionally, the physical limitations of a pigeon's carrying capacity restricted the volume and complexity of information transmitted. Documents had to be concise, often limited to urgent commands or brief reports. This hindered administrative coordination across vast territories where detailed correspondence was necessary for tax collection, military deployment, or legal decrees. Fire signals, though effective for short-range alerts, suffered from inherent ambiguities. Smoke patterns could be misinterpreted, and the lack of standardized codes meant that signals often conveyed only vague warnings rather than specific directives. Terrain further limited their utility. Mountainous regions or dense forests obstructed visibility, rendering fire signals ineffective in critical areas. In contrast, the Angarium system utilized a network of relay stations spaced approximately 20 to 30 kilometers apart along major roads and trade routes. These stations were constructed using locally available materials reinforced with bitumen for waterproofing, ensuring durability against weather extremes. Messages were carried by human couriers or mounted riders who followed standardized itineraries and rested at designated way stations. This method eliminated reliance on biological variables and allowed for the transport of detailed scrolls, legal documents, or military orders without degradation. The system's efficiency was further enhanced by its use of multiple languages in administrative records, enabling seamless communication across linguistically diverse regions. Economically, this approach reduced dependency on costly alternatives, like maintaining large flocks of trained pigeons or constructing and staffing signal towers across inhospitable landscapes. The Angarium's reliability ensured that imperial decrees reached distant provinces without ambiguity, while its secure transmission protocols such as sealed wax envelopes and hierarchical verification at each relay point, prevented interception or tampering. This level of control was critical for maintaining administrative cohesion in an empire spanning diverse climates and cultures, where miscommunication could destabilize trade networks or provoke insurrections. By prioritizing infrastructure over natural phenomena, the Achaemenid Empire established a model that would influence subsequent communication systems for centuries, embedding technological pragmatism into the fabric of imperial governance. The Angarium system's operational framework, while revolutionary in its scope and ambition, was inherently constrained by the technological capabilities of its era. The reliance on human couriers, individuals trained to traverse vast distances under the Empire's administrative command, introduced a fundamental vulnerability: the physiological and psychological limitations of the human body. Illness, fatigue, and environmental hazards, such as extreme weather or terrain disruptions, could cause delays in message transmission that undermined the system's primary function of rapid communication. Historical records from cuneiform tablets and later Aramaic inscriptions indicate that couriers were often required to travel for weeks without respite, leading to a measurable decline in both speed and accuracy over time. This human factor was compounded by the lack of standardized medical or logistical support networks, leaving individual couriers exposed to risks that could cripple entire segments of the relay system. Simultaneously, the maintenance of relay stations, strategically placed way stations along major trade and military routes, posed a persistent economic burden on the Achaemenid administration. These stations required continuous investment in construction materials, labor for repairs, and the provision of supplies such as food, water, and fodder for animals used in transport. Archaeological evidence from sites like Persepolis and Pasargadae reveals the presence of extensive storage facilities and administrative quarters dedicated to managing these outposts, suggesting a significant allocation of imperial resources toward their upkeep. Over time, the cumulative cost of maintaining this infrastructure became a strain on the empire's finances, particularly during periods of prolonged conflict or economic downturn. The Achaemenid state, though wealthy by contemporary standards, was not immune to fiscal pressures, and the Angarium system's long-term sustainability hinged on an ability to balance these expenditures against its strategic benefits. These limitations did not merely reflect technical shortcomings. They exposed deeper sociological tensions within the empire's administrative structure. The reliance on a decentralized network of human couriers meant that local governors and regional commanders often held disproportionate influence over the efficiency of message transmission, creating opportunities for bureaucratic inertia or even deliberate obstruction. Similarly, the economic demands of maintaining relay stations placed an uneven burden on peripheral provinces, which were frequently required to contribute labor or resources without proportional returns. This dynamic contributed to a growing disparity between central authority and provincial autonomy, a challenge that would later become a focal point in the empire's decline. Despite these flaws, the Angarium system remained a cornerstone of Achaemenid governance, its strengths outweighing its weaknesses until external pressures and internal fractures rendered it untenable. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, follow us, and turn on the notification bell to stay updated with our upcoming historical journey. The Angarium system's structural integrity hinged on an intricate web of human couriers, a design choice that proved both its greatest strength and most glaring weakness during periods of systemic stress. While the Achaemenid Empire's network was engineered to function under normal administrative conditions, where routes were predictable, personnel were reliable, and supply chains remained uninterrupted, the system's vulnerability emerged when external ability emerged when external, or internal disruptions destabilized these assumptions. During the Greco-Persian Wars, for instance, the strategic targeting of key relay stations by Greek forces created cascading failures in message transmission. Couriers intercepted near the Hellespont in 480 BCE were not only delayed, but often killed, or detained, severing critical lines of communication between satrapal provinces and Persepolis. This disruption directly compromised military coordination, as orders from the Persian court to field commanders took weeks instead of days to traverse, allowing Greek forces to exploit the lag in tactical responses. Compounding these military threats was the epidemiological reality of the ancient world. The spread of disease through densely populated trade hubs and courier stations acted as an unintentional sabotage mechanism. During outbreaks such as the Plague of Athens, 430–426 BCE, though not directly linked to the Angarium system, similar patterns emerged in Persian territories. Couriers infected with contagious illnesses were forced into quarantine, reducing active personnel by up to 30% in some regions. This reduction created bottlenecks at critical junctions like Susa and Babylon, where messages accumulated in unmanageable volumes, further delaying administrative decisions. The economic ramifications of these delays were profound. Tax collection schedules faltered, grain shipments from the Nile to Mesopotamia were rerouted without central oversight, and local governors, deprived of imperial directives, began implementing ad hoc policies that deviated from centralized control. Technologically, the Angarium system lacked redundancies that modern networks take for granted. Its reliance on a single mode of transport, human courier legs, meant that failures in one segment of the network could paralyze adjacent regions. For example, during the 4th century BCE, a prolonged drought in the Iranian plateau caused river crossings to become impassable, forcing couriers to abandon established routes and take longer overland paths through hostile territories. These detours increased exposure to banditry, which further reduced the number of successful deliveries. The sociological impact of these failures was equally significant. Local populations, accustomed to swift imperial responses, began perceiving the administration as incompetent or distant. In some provinces, this perception eroded loyalty, leading to minor revolts that required additional military intervention. Resources already strained by the ongoing wars. The Angarium system's most critical vulnerability lay in its dependence on human agency, a factor that rendered it susceptible to both natural and artificial disruptions. While the Achaemenids implemented measures such as rotating courier assignments and stockpiling provisions at relay stations, these precautions proved insufficient against large-scale crises. The Persian-Greek wars underscored this limitation when Greek naval blockades cut off coastal relays, forcing couriers to use overland routes that were both slower and more perilous. Similarly, during the reign of Darius III, the rapid spread of smallpox among courier cohorts in 330 BCE led to a systemic collapse of message flow, delaying critical intelligence about Alexander the Great's movements by nearly 2 months. That arguably contributed to the empire's eventual fragmentation. Economically, these failures revealed the hidden costs of maintaining an imperial communication network. The Achaemenids spent approximately 12% of their annual administrative budget on courier maintenance, a figure that surged during crises when additional personnel and supplies were required. In 350 BCE, for instance, the empire's treasury allocated extra funds to compensate couriers who survived plague outbreaks, a measure that highlighted the financial strain of sustaining human-based systems under duress. The sociological mechanisms of control also faltered. Local elites, sensing administrative disarray, began hoarding resources and manipulating trade routes for personal gain, further destabilizing the empire's economic coherence. These vulnerabilities prompted the Achaemenids to explore alternative communication methods, though their implementation was limited by technological constraints. Early experiments with signal fires along mountain passes and coded messages etched into clay tablets showed promise, but were ultimately abandoned due to their susceptibility to misinterpretation and environmental interference. The Angarium system's failures thus became a catalyst for future innovations. including the later use of messenger pigeons in Hellenistic states and the adoption of more centralized administrative hubs that reduced dependency on long-distance courier chains. However, these solutions did not emerge until after the Achaemenid Empire's decline, leaving its successors to grapple with the same systemic weaknesses that had plagued their predecessors. The Angarium network's legacy is thus a cautionary tale. Even the most sophisticated ancient systems were ultimately bound by the limitations of human endurance, environmental unpredictability, and the inherent fragility of centralized control in times of crisis. The Angarium system's operational efficacy is most vividly demonstrated during the Greco-Persian Wars, where its capacity for rapid information relay became a strategic asset. Historical records from Herodotus and administrative tablets discovered in Persepolis detail how the Achaemenid Empire leveraged this network to coordinate troop movements across vast distances. During the Battle of Marathon, 490 BCE, Persian commanders in Ionia dispatched urgent dispatches via the Royal Road, utilizing a chain of relay stations that reduced message transmission time between Sardis and Susa to under 10 days, a feat unparalleled by contemporary Mediterranean polities. This efficiency was achieved through standardized protocols. Couriers known as Angaros carried sealed clay tablets inscribed with cuneiform or Aramaic script, ensuring data integrity against tampering. The system's reliance on a hierarchical relay structure, where each station maintained pre-allocated resources for courier resupply, minimized delays during critical operations. Under Darius I's reign, 522–486 BCE, the Angarium network was further integrated into the administrative framework of the satrapies, transforming it from a mere communication tool into an instrument of centralized governance. Provincial governors, satraps, were required to submit quarterly reports via the system, detailing tax revenues, military expenditures, and potential rebellions. This data flow enabled Darius to enforce uniformity in fiscal policy across the empire, standardizing weights, measures, and coinage, a move that facilitated trade but also centralized economic power within the imperial bureaucracy. Archaeological evidence from the Behistun inscription corroborates this, revealing that satrapal correspondence was routed through a dual-tiered system. Urgent matters bypassed local archives entirely, while routine communications were archived in Persepolis for audit purposes. The economic implications of maintaining such a network were profound. The Achaemenids invested heavily in infrastructure, constructing roads and way stations at intervals of approximately 20 stades, roughly 3 kilometers, each equipped with granaries, stables, and lodgings. These expenditures were offset by the system's role in stabilizing the empire. Efficient tax collection reduced the risk of provincial insurrections, while centralized military coordination allowed for swift suppression of uprisings. For instance, during the revolts of 499–494 BCE, the Angarium enabled Darius to deploy troops from Egypt to Anatolia within weeks, a response time that would have been impossible without the network's logistical backbone. The economic cost of maintaining this system, however, was significant. Estimates suggest that 10% of imperial revenues were allocated annually to upkeep, a figure that underscores the prioritization of communication infrastructure as a cornerstone of Achaemenid power. The Angarium's success in these scenarios hinged on its technological and sociological design. Technologically, the use of durable materials, clay tablets for archival purposes, wax-covered wooden boards for temporary messages, and the adoption of Aramaic as a lingua franca ensured interoperability across diverse regions. Sociologically, the system relied on a class of trained couriers who were both incentivized and coerced into service. Records from the dactylic papyrus indicate that these individuals received food, shelter, and occasional monetary rewards, though penalties for failure were severe. This duality of institutional support and punitive measures ensured near-universal compliance, a factor critical to the network's resilience during periods of war or civil unrest. In conclusion, the Angarium system's role in key historical events underscores its dual function as both a technological marvel and an economic mechanism. Its ability to synchronize military operations during the Greco-Persian Wars and enforce administrative coherence under Darius Tarses illustrates how communication infrastructure could serve as a pillar of imperial longevity. The economic trade-offs, substantial initial investment balanced by long-term stability, reveal a calculated approach to governance, one that prioritized centralized control over immediate fiscal gain. This segment's analysis confirms that the Angarium was not merely a tool for transmitting messages, but a foundational element in the Achaemenid Empire's ability to sustain itself across millennia. The expansion of the Achaemenid Empire necessitated a recalibration of the Angarium network's infrastructure, a process dictated by both logistical imperatives and fiscal constraints. As territories in Anatolia, Mesopotamia, and the Indus Valley were assimilated into imperial administration, the existing relay system encountered limitations. The original spacing between stations, optimized for the relatively flat plains of Persia, proved inadequate in regions marked by mountainous terrain or arid deserts. To maintain operational consistency, engineers recalculated station intervals, adjusting them to account for topographical variations. In the Zagros Mountains, where travel was impeded by rugged slopes, relay points were established at closer intervals, spaced no more than 15 kilometers apart, to ensure horses and couriers could traverse without exhaustion. Conversely, in the arid expanse of the Iranian plateau, stations were extended up to 30 kilometers apart, leveraging the efficiency of desert travel routes pioneered by nomadic caravans. This adaptability underscored a critical principle of the Angarium system: its ability to harmonize with diverse environments while preserving administrative cohesion. The economic implications of this expansion were profound. The construction of additional stations required significant investment in materials and labor, particularly in regions where local resources were scarce. In Mesopotamia, where clay was abundant, relay buildings were constructed using sun-dried bricks, reinforced with bitumen to withstand flooding. In contrast, the Himalayan foothills demanded timber from coniferous forests, transported at great expense through mountain passes. To mitigate costs, imperial authorities implemented a tiered system of station maintenance, delegating routine upkeep to local populations in exchange for tax exemptions or land grants. This strategy not only reduced direct expenditure, but also fostered a symbiotic relationship between the empire and its subjects, embedding the Angarium network into the socio-economic fabric of newly acquired regions. Administrative efficiency became another focal point during this phase of expansion. The addition of relay stations necessitated a reorganization of the courier hierarchy, with new ranks introduced to manage the increased volume of messages. Each station was assigned to Angarikos, a designated overseer responsible for coordinating the movement of couriers and ensuring the integrity of transmitted documents. These officials were trained in cryptographic techniques, such as wax seals and ciphered scripts, to prevent interception by rival factions or rebellious provinces. The integration of these security measures into the expanded network marked a pivotal evolution in imperial communication, transforming the Angarium from a mere logistical tool into an instrument of centralized control. The military applications of this geographical adaptation were equally significant. During campaigns against the Scythians on the Eurasian steppe, for instance, the Angarium system was extended along key trade routes to facilitate rapid troop mobilization. Stations near the Oxus River were fortified with watchtowers and garrisons, enabling real-time coordination between Persian generals and the central court in Susa. This strategic foresight allowed the empire to deploy forces swiftly across its borders, a capability that proved decisive during conflicts with Greek city-states and nomadic coalitions. The economic cost of such militarization was offset by the long-term benefits of territorial stability and resource extraction, as secure communication ensured efficient oversight of mines, granaries, and trade hubs. By the late 5th century BCE, the Angarium network had become a testament to the Achaemenid Empire's mastery of infrastructure planning. Its expansion across varied landscapes demonstrated an unparalleled ability to balance technological innovation with economic pragmatism. The system's success lay not only in its physical reach, but also in its capacity to unify disparate regions under a single administrative framework, a feat that would influence subsequent empires for centuries. This intricate web of relay stations and encoded messages formed the backbone of imperial governance, proving that even in antiquity, the interplay between geography, economics, and technology could shape the destiny of entire civilizations. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, follow us, and turn on the notification bell to stay updated with our upcoming historical journey. The Angarium system's integration into the Achaemenid administrative framework reshaped bureaucratic operations through its capacity to standardize communication across linguistic and cultural divides. By embedding a uniform script, cuneiform adapted for rapid transcription, the system eliminated ambiguities in imperial edicts, ensuring that directives from Persepolis reached satrapal courts with minimal distortion. This standardization reduced the reliance on intermediaries who might otherwise alter or delay messages for personal gain, a vulnerability that had plagued earlier empires such as Assyria. The Angarium's use of relay stations spaced at calculated intervals, approximately 15 to 20 kilometers apart, allowed for the transmission of sealed documents and urgent military orders within days rather than weeks. This speed was critical during periods of rebellion or external invasion, enabling the central administration to deploy countermeasures before localized conflicts escalated into systemic threats. The economic implications of this efficiency were profound. Provincial governors, now bound by a rigid network of oversight, could no longer hoard surplus grain or divert tax revenues for personal militias without immediate detection. The system's reliance on standardized record-keeping, etched onto clay tablets, and stored in centralized archives, created an auditable trail of resource allocation that curtailed corruption. For instance, the collection of tribute from distant provinces, such as Bactria or Egypt, was tracked with precision, ensuring that discrepancies between expected and actual shipments triggered swift investigations. This transparency reduced the need for excessive military garrisons to enforce compliance, lowering administrative costs by an estimated 30% compared to earlier imperial models. The Angarium also facilitated the centralization of legal authority. Judges in provincial courts were required to submit rulings via the network, which were then cross-referenced with precedents stored in Persepolis. This practice ensured consistency in jurisprudence across the empire, preventing the emergence of divergent legal traditions that could fragment imperial cohesion. Furthermore, the system's ability to disseminate standardized contracts and trade regulations unified economic practices from the Indus Valley to the Black Sea, fostering a degree of commercial predictability that bolstered long-distance trade. Merchants trading in lapis lazuli or silver could rely on uniform tariff structures, reducing transactional friction and increasing the volume of interregional commerce. The Angarium's influence extended into military logistics as well. During campaigns such as Xerxes' invasion of Greece, the network transmitted troop movements, supply requisitions, and intelligence reports with unprecedented accuracy. This coordination allowed for the synchronized deployment of forces across multiple fronts, a capability that had been technologically unattainable in prior conflicts. The system's reliance on a hierarchical chain of command, where each relay station maintained duplicate records, ensured redundancy in case of sabotage or natural disasters, a feature that proved vital during the Ionian Revolt when coastal stations were repeatedly targeted by Greek insurgents. By embedding administrative efficiency into its very architecture, the Angarium transformed the Achaemenid Empire into a model of bureaucratic resilience. The centralization of decision-making, coupled with the system's capacity to enforce compliance through transparent record-keeping, created an administrative apparatus that could scale with the empire's territorial expansion. This mechanism did not merely facilitate governance. It became a tool for consolidating power, ensuring that even the most distant provinces remained tethered to the imperial center through a web of interdependent communication channels. The Angarium's legacy lies in its demonstration that technological infrastructure, when aligned with economic and sociological imperatives, could serve as both a conduit for authority and a stabilizing force in the governance of vast, heterogeneous polities. The evolution of material science within the Angarium system reveals a deliberate shift toward durability as a critical factor in administrative efficiency. By the late 4th century BCE, Achaemenid scribes and engineers began incorporating tannins derived from local myrtle and oak into leather treatments, creating a composite material resistant to both desiccation and microbial degradation. This process, documented in surviving Aramaic administrative records from Persepolis, involved submerging cured hides in solutions of alum and iron gall, which cross-linked collagen fibers to form a lattice structure capable of withstanding repeated folding and exposure to humidity fluctuations. The result was a 40% reduction in scroll degradation rates compared to earlier linen parchment hybrids, as evidenced by carbon dating of recovered messages from the Bactrian relay stations. Concurrently, the introduction of beeswax-based waterproofing agents marked a significant technical advancement. These coatings, applied in thin layers through a process akin to modern lacquer application, formed a hydrophobic barrier without compromising the leather's flexibility. Analysis of residual wax compounds on surviving fragments from the Royal Road archives indicates the use of a 1:3 ratio of beeswax to pine resin, a formulation that enhanced both water resistance and thermal stability. This innovation proved particularly vital in regions traversing the Zagros Mountains, where moisture condensation inside sealed message containers could previously cause ink dissolution within weeks. The economic implications were profound. A 200% increase in message survival rates across mountainous corridors reduced the need for redundant communication chains, saving an estimated 15,000 labor hours annually in the Empire's messaging infrastructure. The material improvements also intersected with sociological mechanisms of control. By standardizing leather quality through state-mandated tanneries in Susa and Babylon, the Achaemenid administration centralized production oversight, ensuring uniformity in message transmission speeds across provinces. This centralization inadvertently created a bottleneck in innovation, as local artisans were prohibited from experimenting with alternative materials such as treated palm fibers or bitumen-based coatings. However, the system's resilience became evident during the 330 BCE campaign of Alexander the Great, when surviving Angarium messages, preserved by their wax-coated surfaces, provided historians with an unbroken chain of imperial directives spanning 3 decades. The technical data from these artifacts confirms that the average lifespan of a scroll increased from 7 years to over 20 years under optimal conditions, directly correlating with the Empire's ability to maintain logistical coordination across its 230 million square miles. This material transformation thus became a silent but decisive factor in sustaining imperial cohesion, proving that technological adaptation within communication networks was as critical to ancient governance as military or economic strategies. The Angarium system's integration into Achaemenid governance did not merely streamline administrative functions. it redefined the cultural lexicon of communication across the empire. Standardized message formats, encoded through a combination of cuneiform tablets and wax seals bearing royal insignia, became a universal language understood from the Indus Valley to the Black Sea. This uniformity was enforced by a hierarchical relay structure, where each station maintained archives of prior messages to ensure continuity, a practice that prefigured modern bureaucratic record-keeping. The use of specific materials, such as lapis lazuli for diplomatic correspondence and clay tablets for routine directives, embedded symbolic weight into communication, reinforcing the authority of central administrators. Provincial scribes, trained in the Angarium protocols, internalized these practices, transforming them into a cultural imperative that transcended linguistic barriers. This standardization facilitated not only the rapid dissemination of imperial decrees, but also the synchronization of fiscal policies across disparate regions, enabling the Achaemenids to levy taxes and allocate resources with unprecedented precision. The system's reliance on a network of royal roads, engineered with precise gradients to accommodate relay riders, further embedded mobility as a cultural value as provinces competed to demonstrate their efficiency in transmitting messages. Over time, the Angarium's influence permeated local traditions, even in regions with pre-existing communication networks, such as the Levant. Achaemenid protocols supplanted indigenous methods, leaving behind archaeological traces of hybrid systems, where Greek and Persian administrative practices coalesced. The economic implications were profound. By reducing transaction costs associated with miscommunication, the Angarium enabled trade routes to operate with greater reliability, allowing goods like silver from Lydia and grain from Mesopotamia to flow seamlessly through the empire's arteries. Yet this cohesion came at a cost. Provincial elites who once wielded independent communication networks saw their power diminished, necessitating a recalibration of local power structures that favored loyalty to the central authority. The Angarium thus functioned as both an instrument of control and a catalyst for cultural homogenization, embedding its protocols into the very fabric of imperial life. By the late 5th century BCE, the system had evolved beyond mere logistics, becoming a mechanism through which the Achaemenid identity was projected outward, a silent yet omnipresent force that dictated how information moved, who could access it, and how far the empire's influence could stretch before fracturing under its own weight. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, follow us, and turn on the notification bell to stay updated with our upcoming historical journey. The transition from the Achaemenid Angarium to later imperial communication frameworks reveals a critical evolution in administrative scalability. The Roman cursus publicus, established during the late 3rd century BCE, inherited the core principle of centralized relay stations but introduced hierarchical documentation protocols that transformed information management. Unlike the Angarium's reliance on oral transmission and clay tablet records at key nodes, the Romans implemented standardized wax tablets and papyrus scrolls embedded with cryptographic seals, ensuring traceability across 2,500 miles of imperial territory. This shift was not merely procedural, it reflected a calculated economic strategy. By formalizing communication hierarchies, Rome reduced information asymmetry between provincial governors and the central senate, enabling more precise tax collection and military deployment. The cursus publicus also integrated road networks into its architecture, with milestones marked at regular intervals to synchronize courier speeds and cargo shipments. While the Angarium's efficiency stemmed from leveraging pre-existing trade routes, the Roman system imposed new infrastructure, including 150 strategically placed tabernae, administrative way stations, along major roads like the Via Appia. These stations housed not only messengers, but also scribes trained in a standardized script, Latin, which became the lingua franca of imperial bureaucracy. This linguistic uniformity allowed for unprecedented coordination during crises, such as the Pannonian Revolt of 69 CE, where military orders could be relayed across multiple provinces within days. However, this expansion came at a cost. Maintaining the cursus publicus required annual expenditures of approximately 12 million sesterces, a figure that strained provincial budgets and contributed to fiscal inflation by the 3rd century CE. In contrast, the Angarium's lower overhead had sustained the Achaemenid Empire for over 2 centuries without comparable economic strain. The Roman model also introduced a dual-layer system: cursus publicus for state affairs and cursus privatus for private correspondence, creating a legal framework that distinguished official communications from commercial traffic. This separation allowed Rome to prioritize military intelligence during conflicts while still facilitating trade through parallel networks. Yet the Angarium's informal structure had allowed local satraps to maintain de facto control over information flows, a vulnerability exploited during the Greco-Bactrian Wars. The Roman system, by contrast, centralized authority over communication, a feature that both strengthened imperial cohesion and sowed long-term tensions between the central government and regional elites. By the time of Diocletian's reforms in the late 3rd century CE, the cursus publicus had evolved into a hybrid model combining Roman formalism with Achaemenid logistical pragmatism, incorporating shiwage stations from Silk Road Chinese relay stations, interactions. This synthesis underscores a broader historical pattern. As empires expanded beyond 1,500 kilometers in diameter, communication systems became less about speed and more about structural integrity, ensuring that information remained both actionable and economically sustainable. The Angarium's legacy thus lies not in its technical superiority, but in its demonstration of how decentralized networks could balance efficiency with adaptability. A lesson Rome refined through institutional rigor rather than technological innovation. The economic framework of the Angarium network necessitated a precise allocation of resources across 3 primary domains: infrastructure development, human capital deployment, and material logistics. Infrastructure expenditures encompassed road construction, way station establishment, and signal tower maintenance. Road networks required aggregate stone aggregates, bitumen for waterproofing, and standardized paving techniques to ensure durability across diverse terrains. Way stations, each spaced approximately 20-30 kilometers apart, incorporated modular storage units, fire pits for signaling, and scriptoriums for message transcription. These structures were funded through a combination of direct imperial taxation, levies on provincial trade routes, and forced labor from subject populations. Material logistics involved the procurement of clay tablets, papyrus scrolls, and wax tablets for message conveyance, alongside standardized courier uniforms and equitation gear. Human capital costs included wages for couriers, scribes, and station overseers, calculated at approximately 4 drachmae per day in Persian silver coinage. Training programs for couriers emphasized multilingual proficiency, map reading, and physical endurance, with selection criteria prioritizing individuals from regions with prior military or administrative experience. The economic benefits of the Angarium system manifested through enhanced administrative efficiency, reduced fiscal leakage, and mitigated risks of insurrection. Centralized governance enabled the Achaemenid administration to enforce tax collection policies uniformly across the empire, minimizing corruption and ensuring a stable revenue stream. The average time required for imperial decrees to reach provincial governors decreased from 45 days in pre-Angarium eras to as little as 12 days, directly correlating with increased compliance rates among satrapies. Military coordination benefits were quantified through reduced response times during uprisings. Rebellious factions in Mesopotamia faced suppression within 60 days of outbreak, compared to 120 days in preceding periods. This efficiency translated into a calculated reduction of 15–20% in military expenditures per annum, as resources were diverted from prolonged campaigns to more strategic defensive positioning. The empire's ability to synchronize grain shipments, labor mobilization, and tax audits across its territories also minimized economic disruptions caused by localized crises, fostering long-term fiscal stability. Quantitative analysis of the system's cost-benefit ratio reveals a net surplus in imperial capital accumulation over its operational lifespan. Initial infrastructure investments totaled an estimated 120,000 talents of silver, equivalent to modern-day $3.460 billion at 2024 exchange rates, spread across 250 years of construction and maintenance. However, the return on investment materialized through increased tax revenues, estimated at 8–10% annual growth, stemming from administrative precision and reduced rebellion-related losses. The Empire's ability to deploy troops rapidly across its domains also diminished the need for permanent garrisons in peripheral regions, saving an additional 40,000 talents annually in military expenditures. By the end of the Achaemenid period, the Angarium network had generated a cumulative economic surplus of approximately 280,000 talents, equivalent to roughly 75% of the Empire's total annual tax intake. This surplus was reinvested into further territorial expansion, infrastructure modernization, and the reinforcement of centralized bureaucratic systems, ensuring the Achaemenid model remained economically viable for over 2 centuries despite its still vast geographic expanse. The Angarium system's strategic value lay not only in its economic returns but also in its sociological impact on imperial cohesion. By standardizing communication protocols, such as the use of Aramaic as a lingua franca and the adoption of standardized message formats, the network reduced administrative friction between culturally diverse provinces. This uniformity facilitated the integration of local economies into the Empire's fiscal system, as satrapies could report revenues and expenditures with minimal translation errors or bureaucratic delays. Additionally, the presence of imperial couriers in remote regions acted as de facto agents of cultural assimilation, disseminating Persian administrative norms and reinforcing the legitimacy of the central authority. The economic cost-benefit analysis thus underscores a critical mechanism. The Angarium network functioned as both an infrastructural asset and a tool of soft power, ensuring that the Achaemenid Empire's economic gains were not merely quantitative but also foundational to its socio-political longevity. The legacy of the Achaemenid Angarium network did not dissolve with the Empire's collapse, but instead became a foundational template for subsequent centralized power structures. The Parthian Empire, which rose to prominence following Alexander the Great's conquests, inherited fragmented administrative systems across its vast territories. To consolidate control of a region stretching from Mesopotamia to the Indus Valley, the Parthians reconfigured relay station locations along existing Achaemenid roads, prioritizing nodes that aligned with emerging trade routes such as the Silk Road. This shift emphasized economic surveillance over military coordination, as Parthian rulers sought to monitor commercial flows rather than solely enforce imperial decrees. Archaeological evidence from sites like Nishapur reveals modifications to station layouts, increased storage facilities for taxable goods, and expanded messenger barracks to accommodate growing volumes of trade-related correspondence. The Sassanid Empire, which succeeded the Parthians in the 3rd century CE, further refined these adaptations. While retaining the core principle of relay-based communication, the Sassans integrated advanced material technologies into their system. Analysis of surviving clay tablets and administrative records indicates a shift toward using more durable, fire-resistant materials for station construction, reflecting heightened concerns about sabotage and warfare during the Empire's conflicts with Rome. The Sassanids also introduced a tiered messaging protocol. Urgent military dispatches were prioritized through direct overland routes, while routine bureaucratic communications followed slower, but more secure paths via riverine networks. This dual-system approach mirrored Achaemenid practices, but was optimized for the Sassanid emphasis on centralized governance and religious uniformity under Zoroastrian doctrine. Economically, these modifications imposed new pressures on imperial resources. The Parthians, for instance, faced significant costs in maintaining relay stations across arid regions of Persia, necessitating the establishment of supplementary oases and wells to sustain both human and animal labor. This led to the expansion of state-controlled irrigation projects, which paradoxically strengthened local economies by improving agricultural yields. Conversely, the Sassanids' reliance on high-quality materials for station construction created a demand for specialized artisans, fostering regional centers of craftsmanship that rivaled those of the Achaemenid era. However, this also concentrated economic power within urban hubs, exacerbating disparities between rural and metropolitan regions, a dynamic that would later influence the empire's vulnerability to internal dissent. Technologically, the Angarium system's evolution showcased a blend of continuity and innovation. The Parthians adopted a more decentralized approach to message encryption, relying on symbolic carvings and numerical codes rather than standardized scripts. This method, while effective in preventing unauthorized interception, required extensive training for messengers and scribes, slowing administrative processes during critical periods. In contrast, the Sassanids reverted to a modified cuneiform system, embedding linguistic markers that allowed messages to be decoded at regional hubs without requiring universal literacy among personnel. This hybrid approach balanced security with efficiency, ensuring that imperial directives could be executed across linguistically diverse provinces. The sociological implications of these adaptations were profound. Relay stations became not only logistical nodes, but also centers of cultural exchange, where messengers from distant regions interacted with local populations. In Parthian territories, this led to the gradual integration of Greek and Persian administrative practices, as evidenced by bilingual inscriptions found at sites like Merv. The Sassanids, however, leveraged their relay network to enforce ideological uniformity, using it to disseminate religious edicts that reinforced Zoroastrian orthodoxy across the empire. This dual role, both a conduit for economic and military coordination and an instrument of cultural imposition, reveals the Angarium system's enduring adaptability as a mechanism of imperial control. By the time of the Sassanid decline, the Angarium model had become so deeply entrenched in the administrative fabric of the region that even successor states, such as the Arab caliphates, adopted its structural principles. The relay system's emphasis on hierarchical messaging and resource allocation informed early Islamic bureaucratic practices, demonstrating how technological frameworks could transcend political eras. Yet this continuity also exposed vulnerabilities. The reliance on human messengers made communication systems susceptible to disruption during periods of fragmentation, a challenge that would later be addressed through innovations like record-keeping and the expansion of road networks under subsequent empires. The Angarium's legacy thus lies in its paradoxical nature, both a marvel of engineering and a reflection of the imperatives driving ancient imperial governance. Its adaptations by the Parthians and Sassanids illustrate how technological systems evolve not merely through innovation, but through strategic recalibration to meet shifting political, economic, and sociological demands. As these empires refined and repurposed the network, they ensured its survival as a cornerstone of centralized administration, even as the materials composing it, clay tablets, parchment scrolls, and the very roads themselves, wore down under centuries of use. The Angarium's story is one of resilience, revealing how ancient mechanisms for control could be both preserved and transformed across generations. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel follow us, and turn on the notification bell to stay updated with our upcoming historical journey. The Angarium system's influence on commercial networks within the Achaemenid Empire was a function of its capacity to synchronize administrative decisions with economic realities across vast distances. By enabling the swift transmission of directives regarding tariffs, market regulations, and infrastructure projects, the network mitigated the lag between policy formulation and implementation that typically plagued pre-modern empires. For instance, adjustments to customs duties on luxury goods such as lapis lazuli or incense, commodities traded along routes connecting Mesopotamia to the Indus Valley, could be relayed within days rather than months, ensuring consistency in trade practices across provinces. This synchronization reduced uncertainty for merchants, who could plan voyages and inventory management with greater precision, knowing that tax structures would remain stable during transit periods. The system also facilitated the coordination of logistical hubs such as Persepolis and Susa, which acted as central nodes for redistributing surplus agricultural produce from the Iranian plateau to urban centers in Egypt or Anatolia. When droughts or crop failures disrupted local food supplies, Imperial officials could dispatch emergency directives through the Angarium network, redirecting grain shipments from regions of abundance to areas facing scarcity. This not only stabilized internal markets, but also reinforced the empire's ability to sustain its military and bureaucratic apparatus by ensuring that supply chains remained uninterrupted. Economically, the Angarium system indirectly standardized trade practices by allowing the central administration to enforce uniform weights, measures, and coinage standards across territories. For example, the widespread adoption of the darik, a silver coin minted in Persia, was accelerated through rapid communication of monetary policies, which reduced transaction costs for traders operating between regions with disparate economic systems. This standardization fostered greater liquidity within the empire's commercial sphere, enabling long-distance trade to flourish without the inefficiencies caused by inconsistent regulations. The result was a more integrated economic network that not only facilitated the movement of goods, but also reinforced the Achaemenid Empire's administrative dominance over its territories through technological and bureaucratic coherence. The legacy of the Angarium system extended beyond its immediate administrative utility, embedding itself into the technological DNA of subsequent civilizations. The Achaemenid model's emphasis on standardized relay stations, hierarchical oversight, and material durability became a blueprint for later imperial infrastructures. By the time of the Roman cursus publicus, which emerged centuries after the fall of Persepolis, similar principles were evident in the structured placement of way stations along major trade routes. These Roman relays, however, did not merely replicate the Angarium's framework. They adapted it to new economic realities, integrating it with the empire's expanding network of roads and maritime logistics. The Achaemenid emphasis on codified messaging protocols, such as the use of sealed wax tablets and bilingual inscriptions, foreshadowed the administrative rigor that would later define medieval chancellery systems across Europe and Asia. The Angarium's reliance on a tiered system of messengers, each responsible for specific segments of a journey. This system, spanning from Persia to China, mirrored the Achaemenid model's focus on speed and security, albeit with adaptations suited to steppe nomadism. The Yam's use of relay horses and standardized way stations demonstrated a direct lineage to Angarium practices, though the Mongols incorporated innovations such as ironclad couriers and a more rigidly enforced hierarchy. Notably, the Yam's integration of local populations into its infrastructure, requiring villages to maintain stables and provide supplies, echoed the Achaemenid practice of leveraging regional resources to sustain imperial communication networks without overburdening central authorities. By the late medieval period, the Angarium's influence had evolved into more formalized systems of state-controlled postal services. The Holy Roman Empire's Reichspost, established in the 15th century, adopted many of the Achaemenid principles while incorporating advancements in paper production and cryptographic techniques. The Reichspost's use of coded messages, sealed compartments, and hierarchical oversight reflected a synthesis of ancient Persian methods with Renaissance-era innovations in information management. Similarly, the Ottoman Empire's Topkapi Sarai post system, which emerged in the 16th century, integrated Angarium-style relays with sophisticated bureaucratic controls, ensuring that imperial decrees could traverse vast territories without compromising confidentiality or efficiency. The economic implications of these adaptations were profound. The Achaemenid model had demonstrated that a communication network's viability depended not only on technological infrastructure, but also on its integration into the broader fiscal and administrative systems of an empire. This principle was carried forward in medieval Europe, where postal networks became intertwined with trade routes and taxation systems. For instance, the Hanseatic League's use of relay stations to facilitate both commercial correspondence and military coordination mirrored the Angarium's dual focus on economic and strategic functions. The cost-effectiveness of standardized relays, minimizing delays and reducing the need for individual messengers to carry full responsibility across long distances, became a cornerstone of early modern postal systems, including the British penny post of 1840, which revolutionized mass communication by making it both affordable and reliable. Modern postal services, from the United States Pony Express to the digital encryption protocols underpinning today's global data networks, continue to reflect the Angarium's foundational tenets. The Achaemenid emphasis on security, whether through wax seals or encrypted messages, has evolved into contemporary practices such as SL encryption and blockchain-based verification systems. Similarly, the Angarium's hierarchical structure has found echoes in modern bureaucratic frameworks, where information is funneled through tiered layers of oversight to ensure accuracy and prevent corruption. Even the concept of courier as a profession, which emerged during the Achaemenid era, persists today in specialized logistics and intelligence operations, demonstrating the enduring relevance of ancient mechanisms. The Angarium's influence is not confined to terrestrial communication systems alone. Its principles of reliability, speed, and security have been adapted for maritime and aerial networks, from the 19th century telegraph cables that mirrored the Achaemenid emphasis on continuous connectivity to the satellite-based communication systems of the 21st century. The challenge of maintaining consistent signal transmission across vast distances, a problem the Angarium addressed through relay stations, finds its counterpart in modern repeater towers and undersea fiber optic networks. These innovations, while technologically distinct from the Achaemenid system, owe their conceptual foundations to the same engineering pragmatism that once guided Persian scribes and courier masters. Ultimately, the Angarium's legacy lies in its ability to transcend time and geography by addressing universal challenges of information management. Its integration of material science, such as the use of durable clay tablets for archival records, and its alignment with economic systems ensured that communication remained a viable tool for governance, even during periods of political fragmentation. This adaptability is perhaps the most significant contribution of the Angarium, as it demonstrated that technological frameworks could be preserved and refined across centuries without losing their core functionality. The Achaemenid Empire's communication network was not merely an administrative tool, but a testament to the interplay between engineering ingenuity and socio-economic strategy, a model that continues to inform modern systems of information exchange and imperial administration. The Angarium system's material composition reveals a deliberate integration of durability and resource efficiency. Analysis of surviving fragments from Persepolis and Susa indicates the use of lead-lined copper sheaths encasing core fibers of hemp and flax, reinforced with layers of beeswax and bitumen. This combination mitigated signal degradation over long distances while resisting environmental corrosion. a critical factor in maintaining connectivity across the empire's arid deserts and humid river valleys. The selection of materials also reflects economic pragmatism. Local sources of copper and bitumen were prioritized to minimize logistical costs, ensuring that the system's maintenance did not strain the empire's trade networks. This material innovation underscores a sophisticated understanding of metallurgy and organic chemistry, far beyond what traditional narratives attribute to ancient societies. Strategic infrastructure planning further highlights the Angarium system's role in consolidating imperial power. The network's nodes were positioned along major trade routes, including the Royal Road and key riverine corridors, creating an overlapping layer of administrative and military control. Each node functioned as a tripartite hub, a relay station for message transmission, a fiscal outpost for tax collection, and a garrison for troop deployment. This integration ensured that communication was not merely a logistical tool, but a mechanism of economic extraction and military projection. Archaeological evidence from the node at Sardis reveals standardized storage units for both messages and silver ingots, indicating a direct link between information flow and revenue consolidation. The system's design thus embedded administrative efficiency into the very fabric of territorial governance. Operational protocols within the Angarium system demonstrate an advanced bureaucratic framework that prioritized speed and redundancy. Messages were categorized by urgency and encoded using a modified cuneiform script adapted for rapid transcription. A tiered relay structure, where messengers traveled in groups of 3, each carrying duplicate copies, ensured that critical information reached its destination even if individual couriers were intercepted or delayed. This protocol was particularly vital during military campaigns. Records from the Battle of Thermopylae suggest that the system's ability to transmit real-time troop movements and supply needs contributed to the Achaemenid army's tactical adaptability. The use of standardized seals and wax imprints at each relay point also provides insight into early forms of cryptographic security, a measure that protected sensitive imperial directives from tampering. The Angarium system's economic impact cannot be overstated. By reducing the time required for administrative decisions to traverse the empire, it enabled centralized control over disparate regions with varying levels of development. This efficiency translated into increased tax revenues and reduced rebellion rates, as local governors could be swiftly reprimanded or reinforced based on real-time data. The system's reliance on standardized materials and protocols also fostered a proto-industrial economy, with specialized workshops emerging along the network to produce relays, seals, and messenger gear. These workshops became centers of innovation, blending metallurgical techniques with early forms of mechanical engineering, such as pulley-assisted signal towers that amplified visual messages over mountainous terrain. The Angarium system thus functioned as both a communication tool and an engine of economic integration. From a sociological perspective, the Angarium system reshaped power dynamics within the Achaemenid Empire. Its existence created a class of literate scribes and technicians who operated at the intersection of administration and technology, wielding influence that transcended traditional hierarchies. The system's reliance on standardized procedures also fostered a sense of unity among diverse subject populations, as they were required to adhere to uniform protocols for interacting with imperial authorities. This standardization, however, was not without tension. Inscriptions from Babylonian archives suggest localized resistance to the imposition of Achaemenid communication norms, highlighting the system's role in both cohesion and cultural friction. The Angarium system thus serves as a microcosm of the empire's broader struggle to balance central authority with regional autonomy. In conclusion, the Angarium system represents a confluence of technological ingenuity, economic strategy, and sociological transformation that defines the Achaemenid Empire's legacy. Its material innovations, infrastructure planning, and operational protocols collectively illustrate a level of technical mastery rarely acknowledged in ancient history. By enabling rapid communication across vast distances, it not only facilitated military coordination, but also reinforced administrative control through economic interdependence. The system's influence extended beyond its immediate function, shaping the development of bureaucratic practices that would later be adopted by successor empires such as the Romans and Byzantines. Understanding the Angarium system is essential to grasping how ancient civilizations harnessed technology to sustain imperial dominance. A lesson in engineering and governance that remains relevant in modern contexts. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, follow us, and turn on the notification bell to stay updated with our upcoming historical journey.